Hello and welcome. We are so glad that you are with us today. Many of us on our hearts and in our minds and in so many ways are concerned about what is happening to our neighbors who are in the immigration or the migration process. How is it fair? What can we do? We're asking all these questions. Today, we are putting together a number of questions and answers, not just for those of you who want to help, but for those of you in the process. This is a way to learn more about the way you can prepare yourself, your families, and your loved ones for more information about how to prepare for this new world that we are all in, and we are all in it to be sure. So please listen carefully. Please share this information as widely as you can. We're going to keep posting it no matter what people do to us or try to take it down. We are with some experts today in this area to get many of these very important questions answered. So I'm going to let after introducing myself, I'm Reverend TJ FitzGerald, the Minister of Community Care and Engagement here at First Unitarian Church of Dallas. I'm also an attorney, but that's why this is kind of close to my heart. So I'm going to let our guests introduce ourselves, and we're going to get right into it. First,
my name is Jiroko Lopez. I'm an immigration attorney here in Dallas, Texas, Lopez and Freshwater, and we're here also to fight for immigrants' rights.
And Sandra Avalaos, a community organizer.
Wonderful. All right, first, the question on so many people's minds when something is going down is, how do I hire a lawyer? Do I need a lawyer?
The answer is yes. So how do you prepare? I think the preparation starts at the consult phase. So the very first thing is to hire an attorney, you need a consultation. And this may seem very basic, but make sure the person you're talking to is an attorney, right? So unfortunately, in many spheres for Hispanic people, I know I've worked with the Vietnamese community, there's people who are notary publics or people that aren't attorneys, and they'll go to a consultation and not get legal advice, but are still paying for it. So first thing is make sure you're meeting with an attorney. The second thing is prepare for your consult. So how do you do that? The first thing is your paperwork. If you have paperwork from immigration, the attorney's going to need to see it, right? So number one, get ready for that. Two, your biographic data. Our office, for example, we do an intake. When did you come to the U.S.? Do you have children? What is their status? Get ready for that. And then sometimes it's asylum based. And so if we're talking, why did you come to this country? There's some pretty rough things that you might have to explain, right? You've been the victim of torture, something horrible has happened. You need to mentally prepare yourself for that. So the first thing is, always be honest, bring all of your paperwork so that we can review it with you, and have your own questions. Sometimes people want to know, how long is it going to take? What's the fee going to be? There's nothing wrong with that. Bring your list of questions.
Great. Have you had any experience with people that don't know any of this? Like, what are some of the pitfalls you've seen with folks when they're trying to get their paperwork together like this?
I think they are very shy in asking questions because they feel like, oh, he's the expert. She knows, he knows. So I'm just gonna, provide the basic information that they ask and hope that they, know what to run with, right? And so we always encourage them, no, be very specific about what is that you need to know. What is it that they're gonna do? How much are they going to charge you? What does that look like as far as the application process? Now, do I need to hire a different type of attorney in case of an arrest? Do I need to hire a different kind of attorney in case, there's something between something criminal happened, and then there's an immigration case, and then there's a detained, and now you're at ICE. So knowing that those are the different possibilities and understanding that those are different attorneys that you might need to talk to. You have very few unicorn attorneys that do all of that, right? And so just being mindful and then understanding that there's a difference in between the criminal law and the federal law and all of that. So.
Great. And you raise a really important issue. This is sort of issue number 2 we're going to talk to. What are the things we need to be aware of that we might be hearing from someone who claims to be an attorney that may not be, or may be telling us something that is not good for us or that is just wrong? We see all kinds of scams, and I'm sorry to scare you, but there are scammers out there who are taking advantage of people in this process. What are some of the ones you've seen?
So we've seen a bunch. The first one is after you have a consultation, to Sandra's point, is, you're prepared. You go to the consultation, you ask questions. You need to know what's going to happen, right? Am I eligible for anything? So at the end of any consultation, you should know, am I eligible for status? And sometimes
write this down. I should know, am I eligible for status?
Yes. And usually the answer is black and white, yes or no. Sometimes it's gray because maybe it's a legal gray area, right? But the attorney should be explaining, okay, so you're eligible for this. This is how much it costs. This is how long it takes. But to your point, TJ, if an attorney is telling you, and there's some false VAWA claims out there, oh, you're not eligible for anything, but let's make up that you've been the victim of this. It's going to be $13,000. It's going to be $20,000. And they just go to the money right away. I understand if you go to a law firm, an attorney's going to charge for their work, but if they're just at the start, just telling you how much, how are we going to get paid? And so I did a consult 2 days ago where the woman told me they wouldn't let her leave the office without providing bank information, which is really scary. And they immediately went into the finance. They didn't explain what evidence she needed, what the form was going to be. She had no idea what the legal process was. The other scam is paying an attorney ahead of time in case something happens. So what I'm really telling people right now is I think the most value is in a consult, a good consult with a good attorney. So if we do a consult, you will know, are you eligible for anything? Yes or no. If not, and you get detained, what is the plan? Are you eligible then? So there's attorneys that charge $100 or more every month to be on call. Once you've done a consult with me, I know if you're eligible, and if you're not eligible, I'm not going to charge you for something I can't do, right? You're going to need that money potentially to start a new life or for your family, which is awful to say, right? But you don't want to spend that money unnecessarily.
Exactly. Yeah, those are very important things to note, and we could belabor going into all the different ways. You also raised the very important thing that you might need multiple different kinds of attorneys. Can you say something about that as well?
Yeah, so unfortunately, sometimes what we're seeing is people are pulled over for things that are not right. So we had a gentleman who was stopped for being a passenger without a license. You don't need a license to be a passenger. We have another case where a gentleman was stopped for an alleged crime where he was intoxicated, and the results came back 0.0, every blood out, like every single thing, right? And so that's a criminal context. So you may need a criminal attorney, and you also may need an immigration attorney. But what everybody needs to know is if you're not a citizen and you're going to plead to something, you need an immigration attorney, because depending on what you plead with, that can affect your immigration status.
We are going to put a link down below for information about how to contact what we call good immigration lawyers. So just go down below and look at that. We'll get that information in there. So the next thing, when we talk about the paperwork, what is some of the most important paperwork? I hear people talking a lot about power of attorney. You've talked about power of attorneys. Is this something you both have seen? Like, what are they and what kind do people need?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there are certain situations where people have been removed from this country and they've owned a home, they have a bank account, they have a car, and now they can't access those assets. Imagine you've paid so much money for this. So a power of attorney, it gives somebody that you trust. So let's say it's you, right? And you're my very good friend. And if I need you to sell the house in case I'm removed, you can do that, right? So a power of attorney can also be over picking up your kids at school. God forbid you and your partner don't have status, you're both picked up, the kids are by themselves, right? So a power of attorney document just lets you pick up the child. It's limited. It's not a custody order, right? But potentially they can pick up the child. So that document shouldn't be given out because it's, once it's executed, but it also can't be hidden to such a degree that
What does
nobody can find
executed
it.
mean?
No, that's a very good point. So it's filled out completely and it's notarized. So my suggestion is you have to have a person of trust. And just because someone has status doesn't mean that they're a person of trust, right? So if they're your kids, your neighbor might be a citizen, but you don't know them right? But maybe your aunt doesn't have status, but you trust her. And so make sure it's somebody that you trust. Once it's executed, keep it somewhere safe, but not so safe that nobody can find it. Just the people of trust can find it. Because once you're detained, people are getting removed really quickly if they're not eligible for anything. There's no time. You need to do this before you're detained, if you're detained.
Now, you raised a very important issue when we were talking. It's very nice to have all of this information, but can you tell us more about what you've seen on the front lines about the very basic data and information that people aren't sharing or giving? It was very compelling. Can you talk about those things?
So unfortunately, we're getting either folks that show up to the field office or reach out to us and let us know, hey, I'm looking for a loved one, or a friend or family member, and we're asking them, okay, do you have an A number? Do you have the date of birth?
And what's an A number for everyone?
It's an alien number. And so a lot of the folks that come out, they're like, no, I don't know if they have one. I'm like, well, if they have a case, if they have a pending case with the USCIS, then they have an A number. And so sometimes we have to send them home and tell them, go look through the belongings to see if you can find anything there. Make sure they know your phone number. Sorry, not the phone number, but your date of birth and your country of origin, because that's another, and a full name, first name, middle name, and 2 last names, so that we can be able to locate folks.
Would you say that no one should really even approach the field office? I would say, this is just me, no one should approach the field office, even if you're a friend or a family, without having all of that information in somebody's possession, or give it to one of the folks, give it to you or one of your people before they go in. Am I...
Yeah, I think that's also recommended. It looks like the ICE locator is back on, and that's the same information you can utilize to find your loved one with the ICE locator. So you can also attempt that even before showing up to the field office, because if you also undocument it yourself and you show up to the field office,
they're gonna pick you.
They're gonna take that opportunity. So let's not expose ourselves. And the same thing is, like, once you know your loved one has been moved to a detention center, also don't go and visit them unless you are a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen, because there's also an opportunity that unfortunately can also be picked up there.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are the main things I would. Do you have other issues or questions that you wanted to cover?
I think one of the things is the contract, but we can do that now or later.
The contract.
What you need to have in a contract when you hire an attorney.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's cover it now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's very sketchy if you hire an attorney and there's no contract. I feel like as attorneys,
Preach.
we love contracts. Like,
if they're not giving you a contract, they may not be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Or they're sketchy, right? They're
Yeah.
just scamming you. So, one, have a contract. And if it's in your, native language, even better. So one, have a contract. And it protects you because it's both things, right? So if I'm the client and you're the lawyer, it says what your responsibilities are and what my responsibilities are, right? So you have the contract. It should say what you're doing, right? So sometimes people say, hey, it's 10 grand to get you papers. What does that even mean? What is papers? What form is it? Evidence. So it should say, who the contract is with, what it's for, right? It's like this petition. It's the I-130 petition. And it should say how much it is, right? So is it going to be a lump sum fee? Is it going to be hourly? One question we get a lot is, oh, do I just pay you when I win? So we're not contingency. So do you want to talk about what contingency and personal injury is?
Contingency and personal injury in other areas means that, in a sense, you go into a partnership or a business with your lawyer and you only pay when the result comes. There are certain, meaning that some amount of money is given. That only works in situations where a jury is going to award you a sum of money that you then split with your lawyer. In immigration cases and family law cases, there are certain areas where you're actually not allowed to work on a contingent basis, and that is something that you need to be aware of. That's not a thing.
Yeah, and there's no money going to be awarded, right? So you're basically paying for your attorney's time to complete the case, right? So find out, is it a lump sum fee? Hey, it's a $10,000 case, or it's $200 per hour. So you need to know that as well. So I think have a contract in general, know what it's for. How are you paying, right? Are you getting money deducted every month? And then ask your lawyer, is this it? Is this one of 5 steps, or is this all the steps? How long is it going to take? And are there many steps along the way?
And take notes, or ask if you can turn on your recorder on your phone and record the conversation if they're terrified of that, or if they're like absolutely not. And I would also say if they don't have a contract that's at least parts of it, the important parts are in your native language, really consider whether it's worth finding someone who does.
And you always have a right to copies of all the documents.
Yep.
That's right. If a lawyer says you can't have a copy, that's not true. The lawyer worked on it, but it's also the property of the client. And there's ways, you don't want to have to do this right through the state bar, but there's ways to try to get a copy of your paperwork. So you are entitled to it. That's a great point.
Yeah. These are the beginning of many questions. If you have additional questions, you can put them in the comments. We're going to do this whole thing in Spanish now. And so if you were kind of understanding what it was, look for the link to that. We're going to link one video to the other. So there'll be the English language version on the Spanish, and there'll be the Spanish language version on English. And drop in questions if you have them, and we'll get back together and do this again, and we'll answer those. This might be a regular thing, and also the laws and things are going to change, so the 3 of us might get together again. This is where we are right now on November 11th, 2005. We shall see where we are after that. So we're going to cut now, and we're going to do this all in Spanish, and we'll see you all back there then. Thank you both so much. Say goodbye to the folks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Gigi.